What's going on, YouTube? So I finally completed all three movies of the Planet of the Apes trilogy. All of them are now on my YouTube channel, and I will be talking about the third part, um, War of the Planet of the Apes. And I will also very slightly be talking about the trilogy as a whole in this video because it is the last part. Um, this movie is what I don't even know how to just say it. It continues on the basis of a human character story. Caesar goes through many character moments of he goes struggles with his humanity in this movie where he's always been in the first movie he was very more human than the humans were in a sense, and then the second movie struggled with ideology and human ideology and human politics, and this we go through the journey of Caesar struggling with his humanity. He, after all these years and on all this war and the fighting and the killing, he has lost his humanity, and for a reason. I mean, he did lose his son, and he lost his wife, and he goes on a revenge story, and and such an easy concept goes such a far way because it not only is it a classic revenge story, but it's also a biblical story in a biblical sense. The great leader lets his people down in a act of selfishness, and he goes on a journey of revenge, and he ends up leading his people in a vulnerable situation where they can be captured and enslaved. Now, and then he has to come back and free his people from slavery, and he goes through the journey of leading them to the promised land. And a Caesar, in a sense, is in the classic story of Moses, um, and where he finally frees his people from slavery, brings them to the promised land, but he is unable to fulfill the journey and live in the promised land. Um, I, I wouldn't say due to his sins, but he does die and passed away, and that's how it happens in this movie. War in general was a very good, heartwarming story that I think is at point the weakest in the trilogy, but also in such a way that you can watch each of these movies separately. You don't need to watch 1, 2, and 3. If you just like one, you can just watch your favorite one and you have a beautiful story. And with it having two different directors throughout all three movies, it has a very complete story, and the stuff in the previous movie set up interesting and interesting mental maps and stuff like that, where the third one goes so much off of the second one, and the second one has goes so much off of the first one, that it seems like they built this trilogy and wrote it out and had the same direction, the same, everything was the same, but it really wasn't like that. I don't know how it was so perfectly connected. It makes me feel like you're supposed to watch it as a trilogy. You're supposed to watch 1, 2, and 3. Though they take years apart from each other, you very much get a clear story. It's the story of Caesar and the introduction to Planet of the Apes and the rise of the Planet of the Apes. Um, War by itself, I say, I've already said it's kind of the weakest, and it is provided more if you watch it in the trilogy. I've mentioned the first two you can watch by yourself and get everything. The trilogy, you get more payout if you watch War inside of the trilogy and not watching it by yourself. But then again, it has a classic beginning, middle, and end, and there's no cliffhanger that is needed. It's very clear, and they all each of these movies have their very own story that they're telling. And when they have the next one, it builds off of the one previously, but it's not required. And I don't know how they did it, but they did so wonderfully in these three movies. Um, I did have some problems with Bad Ape. I mean, it wasn't really funny. It was kind of just like, okay, he's here. Like, let's speed this thing up. Especially with this movie being the longest in the franchise, it's like, okay, come on, let's get it going. But yet, where in the second movie, I thought it was a long movie. I never felt like this. I felt like, though it was the longest movie in the franchise, I thought it was very well paced. And there was no human side that was boring. It was very focused on Caesar, and it was very entertaining and very fast paced. And I loved it very much. Where the first two movies suffered with balancing the human and the ape side, where this movie was very into the ape side and only had a main character of Caesar, which I very much loved. I love that we got to see more of well Rocket. I guess he would be like one of my favorite characters, besides, of course, Caesar himself, and Maurice is of course there as his left as always, wonderfully played. And I had a little bit of problems with the girl, but now in my rewatch, I've noticed that she's actually quite important. She's the character that gives Caesar his humanity back. In a revenge-filled Caesar where he loses his humanity and he has nothing, this character actually brings him back and brings the humanity back to him, and to the point where he can make the sacrifice, and where he was all about revenge, 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 and the concept of mercy got brought up. At the end of the day, he did give the colonel mercy, and the mercy, of course, was unfortunately death, but that is what he wanted. And Caesar didn't kill him, and he let the colonel do it, and that was a sense of mercy. Um, but other than that, everything was perfect. The trilogy um, was just wonderful. I mean, this is my favorite trilogy. I would like to do a ranking list, but personally, I think this is the finest trilogy we've ever had. I am super excited for the fourth movie, but I will not be considering it the fourth movie. I will be considering like a soft reboot. Um, it'll suck because trilogy is such like a high praise, and it would really suck if it got tarnished by a fourth movie. So we'll see what people say. If it's still considered a trilogy, I think it's the greatest trilogy out there. If it is put on to as a anthology where it has four movies, I, I wouldn't be upset with it, as long as the fourth movie, which is coming out this year, is good. If it's bad, I'm gonna consider this a trilogy, and I'm gonna consider that a failed reboot. But if it's good, I'll throw it into the like franchise. I just don't touch Caesar. These movies are phenomenal, and they can be a start. If you want to make another trilogy, go ahead and make another trilogy. But let's keep this up here. Let's keep this up here. I consider this one of the finest trilogies out there. And I mean, all through and out, the have had phenomenal acting. There wasn't an acting choice where I was like, why'd they do that? Maybe some characters I was like, well, why is this character here? But through and through, I thought it was very fine acting, especially with Caesar himself. I mean, this is a guy who has done motion capture like King Kong and for Lord of the Rings, and I think this is his finest work. Absolutely, just wonderful, and I can't stop. I can't stop talking about it. these are my most watched DVDs. I watch these all the time. I watch them as a trilogy. Fox, I think Fox did a wonderful job, and we'll see how Disney did. I'm interested to see, but I'm a little nervous, but I'm really hyped up, especially if we can get another trailer soon. It's gonna be a good one. Um, Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this DVD collection where I talked about the trilogy that I watched. I hope you guys like the movies too. I probably put them a little bit higher standard than a lot of other people, but I think I think this is just a phenomenal trilogy. I hope you guys liked it like I did. If not, that's okay. I'm interested to see on the fourth one. I hope you guys are all like it. Please like and subscribe. And if you haven't seen my other videos, please go ahead and check those out. I break down Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War in the Planet of the Apes in 3 separate videos. This is the third one where I mainly talked about War of the Planet of the Apes or the trilogy as a whole. Thank you very much.